As someone who's reread The Deal and watched the entire Off Campus series multiple times, I'm finally answering the question, which is better, the book or the TV show? Hi everyone, my name's Haley, and welcome to the very first episode of Beyond the Page, a series where I compare books to their adaptations. We'll talk about what stayed the same, what changed, and whether those changes helped or hurt the story. First up, we're going to be talking about Amazon Prime's Off-Campus series, which is also The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I first read this book back in March after the trailer had come out, and I knew that I wanted to read the series before the show came out, and after the first chapter, I was hooked. I wanted to make this my first episode because there are so many book to screen adaptations that it is really about time we talk about if the books or adaptations are better. Before we get into anything, this is your last warning for spoilers. So if you haven't watched the TV series or haven't read the book yet, first of all, what are you doing with your life? And second of all, I will be spoiling things. With the book, The Deal revolves around Hannah Wells and Garrett Graham. Garrett needs help passing a class so he can continue to play hockey, where Hannah needs help getting another guy's attention, but their fake engagement slowly becomes something so much more. This book was written back in 2015 by Elle Kennedy, and while it may be corny at sometimes, it totally fits the book. So if you love fake dating, friends to lovers, or any of those types of tropes, this book is definitely worth a read. I love the characters so much. Knowing that Garrett fell first and fell harder makes this book so exciting, and the growth between two of them is absolutely perfection. While there were some points throughout the story that I was a little iffy about, if you know, you know, honestly, I think it totally fit well with the story after reading it. Garrett is there for Hannah 100%, and she's also there for him as well. Now, I did read the book a second time, and as you can see, I annotated it, and I have a lot of feelings about this book. Overall, I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, and while it could have been 5 stars, it just wasn't all the way there. As for the adaptation, I loved every second of it. And honestly, I have become obsessed. Honestly, because I didn't read the book until after the trailer had already come out, I was already picturing the characters as the people that were playing them. So Belmont Cameli, Ella Bright, they were the perfect Garrett Graham and Hannah Wells for me. Belmont is just so sexy. I cannot stand it. And Ella Bright is like your everyday girl. And she was perfect in every way. Visually, I think the story did so well. I felt like we were actually on a college campus, actually in a hockey house, and actually in a dorm room. Overall, I think the adaptation captured the vibe of the book 100%. While there were some changes and a lot of things that people were upset about, I still think it very well followed along. As for the book adaptation, I did rate it 4.5 stars out of 5, so it is a little bit more than the book, but I'm going to explain why. Now let's talk about things that the show got 100% right. And starting off very strong, him calling her Mona. Now, granted, in the book, he doesn't ever actually call her Mona to her face. He calls her Mona, Mackenzie. You know, it starts with an M, right? But he all does that as an internal dialogue. Instead, in the TV series, we get him actually calling her Mona to her face.
Hey, Mona.
Who's Mona?
I think you.
I'm not Mona.
It is an M, though, right?
Not even close.
Which is actually pretty hilarious. And honestly, I think it was the perfect thing to help us kick off the series in the best way possible. The practice kiss between Hannah and Garrett was also perfection. They used it in the weight room instead of Garrett's bedroom, so that is a little bit different, but I still think it helped build that tension between the two of them. Especially the dialogue between the two of them was also perfect.
If we're gonna convince anyone that we're hooking up, you can't blush whenever I come near you.
You're very sure of yourself. What's wrong, Graham? You said we needed practice.
The two of them were absolutely perfect, and you could see the tension between them. I just couldn't. Also, Hannah walking in on Garrett was absolutely hilarious. Now, in the book, she gets a lot more angrier afterwards, telling him that he didn't do what he said he was going to do, and that he finds it more important to be hooking up with people. But honestly, in the TV show, I thought it was perfect, and Cherry Pie playing in the background was absolutely hilarious.
Garrett. Not sure how cherry pie is gonna.
Hannah, wait.
Locking the door is a thing that people do.
Her catching him was just too funny. The next most important thing I think that took place was Hannah asking Garrett to give her an orgasm. In the book, I was so apprehensive about this because I was like, how is he going to do this? This is going to be really awkward and all that sort of stuff. And then as I continued to read through the book, I thought it was very well done. And then I was a little skeptical when it came to the series because talking about rape is really hard. And more now, people are afraid to talk about it. And I think they did it really well on her discussing every option and telling him how she felt and him actually sitting there and listening to her.
I promise that I have worked so hard to move past this. Okay, I'm not fragile. I don't need your pity. I don't need you to be my therapist. I just need you to do this one last thing for me. Okay, a thing you have done for many, 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 many women. You know, it's just...
A means to an end.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll do it.
Really? You will?
Of course. You're my friend and you need me.
That was so important, and he did so well for that. And the TV show as a whole did really well. Overall, the character personalities between the two of them were 100% right. You can really see where they start to fall for each other on the series, and it feels like the exact same way that they did in the book. Now it's time to talk about things that the show did change. One of the major changes that a lot of people seem to be apprehensive about was the fact that Justin got switched from a football player to a musician. But honestly, they talked about it before the show came out that they wanted Hannah to show that she was interested in somebody that was within the same realm as her, seeing as she was also a musician herself. And I think that it actually really fit. But having Hannah interested in Justin as a football player, it showed that she was interested in athletes, where Garrett was also an athlete. So why wouldn't she have been interested in him? But the whole point was to show that Hannah was more interested in musicians and that it was very different for her to be interested in athletes, which I think they did really well in the show by changing Justin from being a football player to a musician. It just kind of worked a little bit better. Another thing that got changed that was drastically different in the book than it was the TV show is who knew about Garrett and Hannah's deal. Allie did not know in the book whatsoever. She was completely left in the dark, and they even say that in why Hannah did it. However, in the TV series, Hannah actually tells Allie what they're doing, and she helps them with certain things, like the costume party.
I would just like to say this is the most absolutely unhinged plan, and I'm obsessed with it. And you. None of the hockey people know?
Hockey people?
Okay, Jules can't know. This has to seem real.
Which I think, it worked well. Granted, I wish she didn't know, but the way that they set up the TV show and, played into different aspects of it, it ended up working out just fine. And I think it played into the fact that now Allie is keeping a secret, if you know, about her and Dean. So it kind of, worked out in the end. Also, the fact that the book was written in 2015, social media wasn't really a thing. No Instagram, no Facebook. Well, I mean, granted, Facebook I think was around that time. Either way, social media wasn't a huge deal back then, as it is now. So instead of making it so, there was no Instagram or anything like that, they had to update the show a little bit and add in those aspects of social media, which granted, I wish they didn't, because then it kind of also shows how important social media is for us. But I think it kind of worked in the aspect of it showed Garrett who Hannah was before he met her, and showed her singing at one point. That's how he found out her name. Well, in addition to Logan telling her.
The waitress from Milan's, what's her name? It's Hannah. What? Idiot. Dude, she's waited on us like 17,000 times. Oh, she has? Yeah, you seriously haven't noticed her?
But that aspect was also a little, I don't know, iffy for me. Especially also having Jules be in there and them running the fifth line and that being the Instagram, the gossip blog. I don't know. That was a little iffy for me, but I guess it kind of still worked for the show. Now, this one, I did talk about it as being as something that stayed the same, but it was also different in an aspect, which again is Hannah and Garrett's practice kiss. Now, in the book, Dean is the one that walks in on them in the bedroom, making out and, questioning whether Hannah is a good kisser or not, Where instead, in the TV series, they make Logan be the one that walks in on them. And honestly, I think this worked out really well. Because in the book, Logan has a crush on Hannah. We just don't really see it, and it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. Where in the TV series, by doing that and having Hannah kiss Logan and him having those subtle little things about him noticing about Hannah, makes it so it seems like Logan actually has a crush on her. And I think that it worked out really well. Granted, I would have loved to see Hannah kiss Dean and have him freak out and all that sort of stuff, but I do think it worked out really well to have it be Logan instead. Now, we're going to talk about the huge timeline jump that not a lot of people saw coming. Obviously, it makes a little more sense now, but no one had any idea this was happening. Of course, it's Allie and Dean. Honestly, I think this worked out really well. Now, granted, it is because they made Dean a senior instead of a junior, so they had to jump up his timeline a little bit faster. But I think it worked out really well, and I cannot wait for season 2 now, knowing that it's going to be Dean and Allie's season. And the fact that we got little sneak peeks of them being a couple in that one episode made everything so much more exciting. It literally sucked me in and wanted to know if there was going to be a season 2 right around the corner, which they've already started shooting. I'm so excited about that. Either way, having that timeline be jumped up was a little bit different. As you know, technically, Logan is the next book in the series, but I think that they can still build that tension of Logan having feelings for Hannah and not totally knowing what it means will help a lot in the next season. And we can focus on Hannah and Garrett and Dean and Allie, and then, the lovely story of Logan and Grace. The breakup scene was also very, very different than it was in the books. Now, in the books, Hannah is the one that breaks up with Garrett because Garrett's father makes her. Tells her that he's going to cut him off, he's no longer going to have money, he's going to constantly have to work, he's not going to be able to give you the attention that you want and need, he has to focus on hockey, all this sort of stuff to make her break up with Garrett, which, she does in the book. In the TV series, it's changed around to where Garrett breaks up with Hannah because he starts to realize that she's afraid of him. After seeing that stuff with Cindy and realizing that, Cindy's going to go back to Phil and that he's going to continue to abuse her, Garrett is dealing with that turmoil of thinking, oh my gosh, I am like my father. I'm going to beat up my wife. I'm going to hurt her.
Maybe not right now, but someday, you're gonna look at me the same way Cindy looked at me. And that would kill me, Hannah.
Garrett. Garrett!
No, I'm not good for you. You shouldn't be. This is over.
And when Hannah says that she's scared of him doing that for her, that's all he hears is, I'm scared.
For me!
What do you want me to say, Hannah? Do you want me to apologize? Say I'm sorry? I'm not. I could face that asshole 100 times, and 100 fucking times I would beat the shit out of him again.
Yeah, well, that scares me, Garrett. It scares me that you would risk everything for me when I'm telling you it's not what I want. I worked so hard to put it all behind me.
I scare you?
What? No, what? Of course not.
That's what you said.
Garrett, you're not listening to me.
And that right there is where Garrett realizes, oh my gosh, I can't do this to her. We have to separate ourselves, which is the opposite of what Hannah wants. She just wants him to realize that she has moved past the rape, past all of that stuff, and doesn't need him to be her savior when it comes to that stuff, because she's gotten past it. Where all he heard was, I'm scared. Where in the book, when that all happens, Garrett knows that Hannah's lying one way or another. And he does everything he can to figure out why she's lying about why they broke up. And that is where we get the campus-wide hands-off law. And now, a lot of people were a little upset that that was not in the TV series. However, I personally think that I was okay with that. Because to me, making that law was very red flag. Okay? Nope, didn't need that. However, I understood why he did it. You know, he wanted to prove a point. But then them putting that little teaser in there of the younger boys being the one that created that law instead of Garrett was actually pretty funny.
Okay, you have officially stepped over the line. You are so far over the line, I can't even see the stupid line. A campus-wide hands-off law? You broke up with me. And why are you in a suit?
Hannah.
No, sorry, you cannot go around campus telling guys that you'll beat them up for speaking to me. Are you insane?
I never said any of that.
Sake, someone obviously knows what's going on here.
Stoops said Garrett was going to beat anyone up if they hit on Hannah. I didn't say that. Dean said.
And also, I think that the way that they broke up made a lot more sense, especially now the way sports are for college kids is that they can have money given to them by certain companies and have sponsorships, which is where we got the Liquid IV sponsorship. And so technically, Garrett really didn't still need the money. He had the money coming in from his sponsorships where Phil didn't technically really need to pay for him anymore. So having Phil break them up because of money was not really a reason anymore. As for my favorite scenes, there were quite a few. I couldn't really decide. It was definitely way too hard for me. However, I will say in the first episode where they come to the deal, I honestly liked that a lot better. Where in the book, the deal comes a little bit later. You know, they've also gone to a party. Hannah, you know, wants to go home. Garrett drives her home and they're talking. Garrett has to explain everything to Hannah. He's got to tell her, well, this is the only way that you're going to get Justin to realize who you are, blah, 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 all this other sort of stuff. Where them doing it at the actual party, in front of Justin, and in front of all of Hannah's friends, it makes more sense. Because he's able to visually show her how, you know, him being around her is making Justin jealous, and how it's bringing them together, and drawing attention, and all that sort of stuff. The attention that Hannah wants.
Deal.
So I think that it really worked out a lot better to make the deal a visual thing instead of doing it in the car on the way home from the party. Another scene I absolutely loved, karaoke. This scene was so much fun, honestly. In the book, it was great because you got to hear how Garrett was falling for her and that he wanted to kiss her again and that, you know, she looked so much free and all that sort of stuff. She was singing Lady Gaga instead. Now, I really do think that the TV series did a great job with karaoke, making her sing Cherry Pie just a day after she walks in on Garrett. I think that was perfect.
You know this one? She's my cherry pie.
And the tension between the two of them when she is singing karaoke is 100% there. I mean, you can literally see it. She's like, oh, hey Graham, guess what I'm gonna sing? And does it. And now, granted, you don't hear the internal dialogue that he's having, but it's exactly the way it's described in the book. You can tell that he is falling for her and that he wants to kiss her and, you know, be with her and everything. And then obviously the little scene afterwards where, you know, he doesn't take her home but takes her to his house instead. Let's just say that was also perfection. Overall, I loved both the book and the TV show. I thought they were both great and I will love them forever. The TV show has become my new obsession. I watch it constantly. It's become one of my comfort shows. And the book, I just couldn't stop reading it. I soaked it up in a couple days. I even read it a second time, which I loved. And I just love both of them. Now, when it comes to the verdict of which one I like better, when it came to romance, I will have to say I did think that the book did better. And that's just because it goes into much more detail. It shows exactly what they are doing with each other, how much they connect with each other, and the romance that's there is just, it's way more. As for character development, this one I would have to say goes to the show. But that's because in such a short period of time, you have to see how much they change. The book, it happens, but it's very, very slow. Where in the TV show, because it's so fast-paced, we only have 8 episodes. Now, will there be more storyline later on? Yes, hopefully. but that big character development between the two of them has to happen a lot quicker. So I honestly think it was more visual, more appealing, and to me, you saw it happen right away. So that's why I'm going to have to go with the show on that one. As for chemistry, again, I would have to go with the book, but again, that is because in the book, it goes into much, much more detail. Like, way more detail. You get to hear the internal dialogue of each character, the POVs going back and forth, and you get to understand them as a person and get to see and hear their inside thoughts about what is actually happening. And last but not least, emotional impact. This one, I'm going to have to go with the show because the breakup changed and that really hit me hard. And then there were other little pieces that, I felt way more than the book. Now, did they still happen in the book? Yes, some of it. And did it still hit me just as hard? Yes. But seeing it visually was a way different feeling than reading it on the page. While I didn't end up giving the book 4 stars, I did end up giving the TV show 4.5 stars, which does kind of make it the winner. But you know what? I'm going to say it to tie because I really don't know which one I would pick over the other. I loved them both. And I would also say, if you have to decide between one or the other, pick both. Both. Read it. Watch it. Do both. Please. Because they are definitely both worth it. Now that's all for this episode. I do have a couple others that I plan on doing later on. But if you have a book to adaptation that you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments. I have a few on my list, but I would love to know what you think I should cover first. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chapter.